Okay, check. There we go. No, I don't want to end the stream. All right. Okay, check. I got it here. Because I'm smarter. Hey, Brian, if you're on, check in with Brad. Text him, let him know what you're hearing and seeing. Huh? Yeah, there's going to be a delay regardless of where I am.
He's in a meeting, so I don't know if he'll be.
Oh, okay.
I asked him to
Keep that there for a second,
Oh,
please.
here it comes. Just spinning currently.
Well, don't know what to tell you, dude.
That's your Oldham County Internet.
Oh, he's one of those. All right, let's see. Okay. Brian? He sees it now? You got a picture? Got a picture? Because we are streaming live. Okay, here's graphic. Here's the town hall graphic, which will be up. Do you see the town hall graphic? Huh? It's like an 18 or 19 second delay.
Picture and audio working. There you go.
He said, is he getting the graphic? That's what I want to see because I want to make sure audio is good on all of them.
Yes.
Okay. Next thing. Okay. Do you see the Brad's camera? Check, 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 check. 1, 2. And last but not least. Let us know when you've got the Brad's camera in my audio. Excuse me. Check, check. 1, 2. Welcome to the University of Louisville. Child Auditorium.
Okay. Yes, see the graphic, though you might switch the on screen in the room graphic to the dark version since it's on the white screen. Whatever.
Okay.
I don't know if you can do that or not.
No. Too late on that one.
Child Auditorium.
I thought we wanted to do the white one anyway. My bad.
Still has audio and can see.
Here's your camera. Okay. Last thing. Here's the PowerPoint. Make sure audio is good on this, please. And then we're going to switch back. So we're doing we want to do the dark graphic from now on instead of the white one. Man, why was I got it reversed?
I don't know.
I got it reversed. My bad.
Because you think about these things.
I think about them too much. That's what's wrong with me. I know. Again,
PowerPoint, yes.
he's got PowerPoint and he's got audio. All right. That is cool. We are going to sign off here, sort of, kind of. I'm going to quit talking. I'm going to put some music on. Yeah, really. Thank goodness. All right. That is cool. We are going to sign off here, sort of, kind of. I'm going to quit talking. I'm going to put some music on. Yeah, really. Thank goodness. All right, let's get this out of here. Let's see. Oh, man. Didn't mean to do that. Let's see. Oh, let's see.
What'd you do? You already broke it.
I didn't break it yet.
Copyright.
Is that what it says? Oh.
Never says that yet.
Is it? Well, you're hearing it in here too. Hang on a second.
You all have other jobs to do as well. But that group's been really good. Okay. You know, you probably heard some conversations about how you're Thank you. Appreciate it. Even our Okay.
But they don't really stand very well.
See you. Yeah, all right? Yeah, good. Hey, okay. John said he has your 4 o'clock Wall Street covered. Oh, okay. Well, he's not on campus today. Share his short. Ride with you, yeah. See you. Appreciate you. Always appreciate that. Hey, Carl. Good to see you. See? Again. Yeah. 2 days in a row. 2 days in a row. All right. Oh, okay, cool.
How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Hanging in there.
Hanging in there?
You have a good run this morning?
I did.
What'd you do, 5 or 6?
You hated when the water bottles don't stand up anymore.
Wait a minute. Oh, I thought these had bottle here.
I did 6.
All right. I'm going to go. You have a pocket here?
I do.
I'm going to go here. This is on, but it won't be on up there until you look at me. Because you're starting this off, correct? And then you'll hand off to Dr. Cardarelli?
Yeah. And then, as a matter of fact, I'll do all the talking, and then I'll just pass it over to
Okay. So you're doing the main bulk.
I'm doing the main. I'm the main act.
You're the main man.
Main man.
So, again, when you're ready, I'll be looking at you. When you're ready,
you go
give me a
live.
signal, and when I point to you, you're on. Okay?
Okay. Good to see you. How you doing? Glad to see you.
How you doing, sir?
Good. How you doing?
School bandit.
We were kind of over your neck of the woods. Oh, yeah. I had to argue on Saturday. The Friday.
How long ago?
Oh,
Home? Did I know that?
not yet. I don't know.
ULI 65.
I'm supposed to help with the mic running.
Oh, you too?
Yeah.
This is on. Now I just need to find Dr. Cardarelli. He's doing the bulk of the talking. He's going to switch off between her and me. She's going to do Q&A with him.
There she is. There she blows. Hey, Brad.
Hey,
Dr.
Bob.
Bradley told me, I told Dr. Bradley to let me know when he's ready. And when he points to me, that's when we go.
Copy that. Eyes on Bradley.
Dude, huge dude in front of him, like, what the heck, man, what happened there? All right, get ready. I'm not sure when he's going to go. All right, Candy. Right here.
All right. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming. Great turnout. I hear a lot of excitement and interest on this topic. So I know the people are here to learn more about the budget. So, we'll get right to it, which is, the big topic of the day. And when we get through the budget, too, we'll have time for lots of questions, and then we'll move on to other topics, too. But I want to make sure everybody has time to kind of digest some of what I'm going to be going through, and then obviously open it up for as many questions as needed. So I'll kind of do all the heavy lifting, and the Provost will join in, and our CFO is here, and our leadership team. So if there's more granular detail needed, we'll certainly get into that. So, kind of what I really wanted to do is, could you move to the next slide there? Can we go to the PowerPoint mode? Can we actually go to the PowerPoint mode? Yeah, if you hit the screen on the bottom there. Lower right, yeah. There you go. All right. Okay, so really what I'm going to show you is really only 4 or 5 slides. I'm not going to get into all of the minute detail of the budget because we'd be here for 2 hours. That's exactly how long it took for us to present it to the Board of Trustees. So I really want to approach it from a relatively high level, but also detail in it as well. And then we can kind of get into more meatier questions as well, and that we can kind of talk through some more details. So just from the perspective of this slide, the formation of the FY27 budget, just to kind of go back in time, it really started in the fall. We started to get ready for, we knew this budget was going to be a challenging budget. We knew there's a lot of things going on. And so really what we wanted to do is to kind of put committees together that we had charged. I had actually charged the Provost and the Vice President to form working group committees, and there were constituent members of both the faculty, senate, and students represented on those committees. And the idea was to advance ideas around cost containment, revenue growth, looking at operations and processes, sort of both short-term and long-term. And so we have really been, looking at how we are going to prioritize, the scarce resources that we all have around the important aspects of our work. And as I told all of you all when we were doing the strategic plan, that, this is really going to guide our decision-making going forward as we look at, what are the things we want to invest in and need to invest in if we're going to continue our growth as an R1 institution. So I think, we grounded in shared governance. We certainly used the strategic plan and the cardinal principles as guides. And I think it was, you'll see in some of the details, we were responsive to even the survey that we got back in March and April. And I'll give you an example of that. There was a concern around, safety, certainly in relation to the HSC. And one of the things that is in this plan is we're investing $1 million in cameras in blind spots that we didn't have cameras where we could have visibility for safety reasons, and also in police personnel. So there is allocations that are being put into that. So again, that's just an example of some of the feedback we've gotten from the climate survey that we fed into it. And as I mentioned already, it was driven by the strategic plan of the university, as you'll see here in a little bit. So next slide. So, here are sort of the things that, as a fiduciary responsibility of a president and the Board of Trustees is that, number one, this budget is structurally balanced. In other words, all of our revenues, expenses equalize out. We know our revenues are going up in certain areas. We know our expenses are going up in a lot of areas. And so at the end of the day, we have to make choices. And so these choices need to balance themselves out. And so what we presented to the board, as we're mandated to do, is to provide a structurally balanced budget. And so there is no massive gaps or monies that we flow into accounts that we use for rainy days. I mean, essentially, there is monies in here that will help our days cash in hand, but they are not, being pirated away into different activities or resources that I have not gone through either with the board and with the detail in the budget that you'll see. Because we publish the budget book, just so you know, every year the Office of Finance and Administration publishes our approved board budget. So if you go back into the CFO's website, and Rick, you can confirm this, all of the budget documents are there, so you can go back and look at what was prior year and the year before. So, so one of the things we can say is we are going to again have record enrollment in the fall. We think at this point, and that's the low number, is 25,374. That number, I'll tell you, has been softening because we expected it to be closer to 26, and part of that is due to what we're seeing around graduate enrollment. Is we're seeing a decline in our projections around what we thought was happening, even though we knew kind of that graduate enrollment was struggling, but it struggled more than we thought it would. Again, that's just an example. Now, we may go more than that, so we'll see. It is the largest budget in history. So last year, our budget was around $1.76 billion. Overall, this budget is $1.96, so it's a 9.4% increase year over year. Next slide. So we do know that when we went into the budget, even with the enrollment, we had considerable financial constraints to address. So as part of our ability to raise tuition rates, we are capped. There's a 2-year rate that's set by the Council on Post-Secondary Education, and essentially 5% was allocated
over the 2-year period. Last year, because again we were in a challenging budget, we opted at that time to take 3.5% increase at that time, which left only 1.7% roughly of what we could do with this budget tuition for undergraduate tuition. So to put that in perspective, you know, we see that our costs are rising in other areas, and so I put some examples in there that we're not just following the regular cost of inflation. We have inflationary pressures, as we all know, around, particularly in libraries and subscriptions, where we had to make hard choices around subscriptions. We also know in our IT areas and cyber, for example, like our costs are going up even 12% a year. So I tell you all that to say that, you know, these are the challenges that we've been having to deal with. The 1.7% brings in about 3.6 million. So as you'll see, for every 1% we give as a wage increase, that's roughly 3.2 million, right? So, you know, it doesn't give us a lot of room to invest. And I think you'll see in this plan, as we'll go through some more detail, and definitely open to questions on this, we've committed around $14 million in compensation and benefits. And so the 2.5% wage allocation, and that's a general percentage of salaries, will be awarded. And in the case of faculty, there will be a merit component to that, and in staff, it'll be just a general across the board number that will be used for allocation. That's about 9 million. So when you look at costs, when you look at what's been happening in the healthcare space, we've seen a 19% increase in healthcare costs to the university this past year. And we have absorbed them rather than them being passed on to you all, because we, of course, we're in the middle of a year. But healthcare costs are going to the roof, and anybody in any space knows that. So in essence, what we've done there's over 5,000 employees at the university. That was about a $2,500 benefit, essentially, we were giving to compensate for the increases in healthcare costs. And so that's, again, part of what we've decided to absorb as part of our commitment to you all. Next slide. And that's the $2,500 payment for healthcare increases. So, you know, that's not going to appear in your paycheck. That's just behind the scenes absorbed in the healthcare premium. We've invested in our students. There's $9 million in financial aid that we are adding to the pot. Again, that's what's driving and retaining our students and bringing them here. And roughly through all the initiatives to the Provost's office, and the Provost can get into a lot more detail and questions around the 9.6 million. But essentially, it's around student support activities, student, you know, academic support, you know, services, even positions to help in areas where we knew it would benefit, areas that are looking at enrollment growth and services that might be needed as a result of that. Now, where did we get all this cash from? Well, you know, there was a challenging part of all of this. We asked all of the units, you know, roughly, including the president's office to every other support office, is that they had to, as part of the budget building process, do a scenario of how they would identify 10% in cuts. Because, you know, again, that's the whole idea of strategic reallocation, is we have to look at what things do we not stop doing, and if we want to concentrate on supporting new activities or things that are driving us in our strategic plan. And so as part of the holdback, you know, I had mentioned this in the last town hall, or I believe at Faculty Senate, that 10% holdback, you know, literally brought us in around $42 million. Of that $42 million that was identified, then the Provost and the CFO and the group went back and looked at all of those requests and ended up reallocating back, not necessarily to every unit, about 2/3 of what they had allocated, but there was a rubric used to make sure that, again, it was aligning to our strategic plan and to our goals of our enrollment growth and our student support. And so roughly 28 million, which is about 66%, was reallocated back. Now, again, there's a lot of, you know, ideas out there. Somehow we're supporting athletics through general fund. There is no general fund support for athletics through this budget. You know, there's just the normal financial aid and tuition and fee, the athletic fee that was approved last year. But essentially, the athletics budget is structurally unbalanced. It has a deficit, which they will be covering themselves internally through a line of credit. So Our days cash in hand as a university, which is a key metric that our crediting agencies use for us, is actually lower than it was last year. It's not a direction we want to go. Part of it is because our actual budget, because our overall budget has gone up in value, 1.94 billion versus 1.76. Our actual days cash on hand is about roughly the same, but it appears as less days cash on hand. Now, again, it's still something that we have earmarked some funds to support, because we cannot allow our days cash on hand to go like it was back in 2017 or 2018, and we remember those days back in that day. So next slide. So this is kind of an overall view of, where are the buckets, and again, they're very itemized. There's more detail in the budget documents and all that, but roughly 6.8 million was allocated to the Connect pillar, the Learn pillar. When you take all of the things I had talked about around the student support, student success, financial aid is about 23 million. The Discover pillar, about 6.2 million. And then I mentioned the Work pillar, around 18.4 million. So 14 of that 18.4 was the compensation increase and also the health premium benefit. So that was the majority of it. So I'm going to stop right there and kind of open it up. The Provost and I are here, and as I mentioned, leadership are here in these different buckets for questions and comments. Eugene Mueller.
Would you please give us the thumbnail version of the new model for athletics? Would you please give us the thumbnail version for the new model of athletics, of budgeting, the $30 million or $30 million letter of credit eases the pressure on this year's budget, but does not the university backstop that? So can you discuss not only what the new model is for them to generate the money
Sure.
to overcome that, but then what's the time frame and the long-term impact if they cannot pay back the letter of credit themselves?
Yeah. Well, so, first of all, as you are aware, probably that, we created this new Cardinal Ventures entity, which is a 5013C, as part of the Board of Trustees. And part of that is to look at, how we are going to generate additional revenue, right? Because you're absolutely right. I mean, it's not sustainable, right? And you're right. Ultimately, the university is responsible for everything that goes on campus. We backfill all of the units. It's not just athletics. So the budget model has not changed for athletics. I mean, they're still doing all of the things that they need to do from a standpoint of cost mitigation, which they have done and they are still continuing to do, including in reduction in personnel over a number of years where they've reduced staffing. We're going to continue to look at revenue. Revenue is the opportunities for growth. And part of that with the creation of the Cardinal Ventures is to create an entity that will be designed to be more nimble, to be more reactive, to work with partners to create revenue streams that will help the university and the athletics program to thrive. And so it takes up a lot more time than I thought coming into this job. That athletics has taken part. As a matter of fact, I have another interview going on this afternoon. But, so there's a lot of work in that space. Now, we were very pleased, and I know Josh, I saw him come in here. We were both very pleased to see a bill drop from the Senate yesterday by Senators Cruz and Cantwell. That is really welcome news because the SCORE Act had died in the House. And so just so all you know, that bill contains both revenue enhancement opportunities for college sports, but then also introduces hard caps. A bunch of things in there, about 9 or 10 major items there, but it covers issues like eligibility, which is a huge issue. There's about governance and giving teeth. There's antitrust exemption. A lot of things in that bill that really need to happen because it is the Wild West. So it's a work in progress, I guess, is the best answer to that question. Wow, I thought there'd be more questions in the budget. We're going to move on to other topics if there's not.
Here.
Yes. Oh, I'd be shocked if you didn't have a question.
Donald Dean, University Libraries.
Good to see you, Dean.
Hi. I have a question about AI, so maybe we can bring in the Provost on this as well. I've been involved in a number of conversations just today on subjects as mundane, I'm not kidding, as loading our tape dispenser, that has a terrible blade on it that likes to slice fingers off and that I'm terrified of, to audio-visual software. And I've got people giving me all kinds of feedback on what they think about how fearful they are of things like ChatGPT, how much enthusiasm they have for how it might be used in the future, and just people just being outright neo-Luddite on what their approaches are going to be. How do you build a consensus around where we should go from this with that broad range of reactions?
Yeah,
How are we going to get there?
Absolutely. So hopefully you all saw, good afternoon, first of all, the message that came out earlier today from President Bradley and me announcing to the campus community our AI implementation plan, which we're calling Cardinal Intelligence. I want to thank Charlie Bruce from the President's office because Charlie and I worked on a governance structure for this plan because that is an important component. As you are noting, Donald, there are all sorts of tentacles for AI on a university campus, and we want to make sure that we have a thoughtful and nimble governance structure to help guide the implementation of AI. So I think that's what we've arrived at. You all hopefully have seen that Jeff Guan, who's here in the room in the back, has graciously accepted our offer to serve as the inaugural executive director for AI strategy and innovation. And in that role, Jeff will be convening our AI Advisory Council, which contains 4 constituent components touching on research, on pedagogy and all things academics and student support, on enterprise applications and business operations, and on business and community outreach. And so we have respective leaders of each of those units, and collectively they will comprise our AI Advisory Council. We have folks from the University Council's office populating that. We have IT experts that will also be supporting that work. And the types of questions that you're asking are the ones that these experts in these respective work groups will be grappling with. They will report up to an executive steering committee that will include multiple members of the president's cabinet, including myself. So, you know, I will say I've learned a lot over the first part of this year in terms of traveling to both coasts and learning from other provosts and CIOs and institutions, you know, how they have implemented this, how they have approached AI. And there's no question, right, that this is the big challenge, the new frontier for us as humans, I would say, but certainly the opportunity for institutions of higher education are there to really lead in the space. So there are clearly ethical implications here. There are data security implications. And those are issues that I know my office and I personally deal with every day as we work through this. We have a number of irons in the fire that you're going to be hearing more about over the summer as we roll out Cardinal Intelligence. We have, you know, notebook LM training for faculty. So this is an enclosed LLM where faculty can drop all of their Canvas materials for their courses and create specialized studying skills and quizzes and all sorts of tools, you know, for the classroom. Our Employee Success Center is working with ITS on an AI literacy training that will be deployed for the campus community. You know, these are just a couple of examples. Delphi, of course, has been very active in this space for some time and will continue to innovate in the pedagogy space. We have a number of new degree programs, hopefully you saw, that I announced last week that include artificial intelligence as a theme. So I think that this is a space that we, like all institutions of higher education, will have to thoughtfully sort of proceed forward, recognizing that there are some anxieties that, you know, a lot of individuals have about AI taking over jobs. That's not something that we're anticipating anytime soon at this institution. It's nothing that we are planning for. But I think that we need to harness this technology to enhance our efficiencies and our business operations. And there are a ton of examples we can look to across the country to see how they have successfully used it. So I hear the concerns. I think it's important for us as a campus community to have forums to talk about the concerns. We are batting around the idea of an inaugural symposium later this fall where we would create spaces, you know, to have these kinds of candid conversations. Jeff and I touch base every single day, multiple times a day, on the possibilities in the space. So I'm really excited that we were able to make this announcement to the campus about Cardinal Intelligence. There is a lot to come in this space, and we will proceed as thoughtfully and nimbly as we can. When I talk to external individuals such as the Speed Industry Board of Advisors or the College of Business Board of Advisors, and I share what we're working on, the number one recommendation I hear from industry leaders is go faster. And so that's a tension, right, that we're going to continue to have to navigate in the space. As the technology evolves, rapidly, we're going to have to make sure that we have counsel's office and IT security personnel helping us to make sure that we stay within important guardrails.
Yeah, and the only other thing I would add is that, one of the feedback from the Climate and Culture and Wellbeing Committee was around, people's concern around work creep. The addition of additional work because maybe people were not hired to fill positions and things like that. So I really do think that, us looking at people's work is important, right? Because again, there's not only a strategic reallocation of resources, but of work and priorities of work. But I think this is the area where AI can really help us, is around our operational side, our processes and our activities, for efficiencies. And I don't think we're ever going to get consensus, as you were asking for on this topic. But I do think, by having this broad input and broad governance structure, and there's been a number of universities that have taken the lead on this. University of Florida, started their kind of AI university in 2021, and so we have some models that we can look at. I know the Provost has gone and visited University of Florida's annual AI summit, so we get to interact with a lot of people there, and get to see what they're doing. So there's a lot going on.
And it's helpful to hear institutions say, here's what you should not do.
Right.
And the example that I heard from a couple of institutions is it's not smart to go out and partner with one AI company, one technology company, with multiple millions of dollars. And so that's helpful to hear too, right? That's not something we were planning to do. But, we are a Microsoft campus. So, of course, we all have access to Microsoft Copilot. And if you want access to the expanded version, then there's an additional fee to that. We're not deviating from that anytime soon. But Apple was on our campus last week. We are working with them to be a beta tester of an AI tool that they have that's going to help us in the student success space. We are developing our own suite of AI student success tools. I mentioned, we're working with Google and their Notebook LM. So, we'll see how this approach pans out. But I do think that we must continue to leverage the tremendous experts we have on our campus right now in all of those 4 areas that I mentioned. So I'm excited to see the work of these work groups evolve.
Questions? New conversations? New topics? We can go.
Anyone want to talk about I-65? I figured this would
What's
come
going
up.
on with I-65?
I heard it might close.
All right. So as far as salaries, right, you're proposing a 2.5% increase, which is good. If I look over the last 10 years, you look at inflation indicators, about 35% increase, right? Depends upon what indicators you look at. Salaries have not kept up with that, maybe 20%. 2.5, right, does not bridge the gap. And yet I look at operating, right, the budget operating, over 50% increase, right, way above inflation. So the money's there. If you kind of look big picture, the money's there. Why not like a 10% increase, right? That would bring it much closer.
No. Yeah, again, there's a cost for everything we do, right? And, you make choices. And, we always were committed to doing a 2.5% increase right from the budget building time, because we didn't want people to fall further behind. And that was the temptation to do. I mean, well, the state's only, for instance, doing a 2% increase, right? So I think, when you look at what we've done since 2022, we've given over, $88 million in commitment around compensation when you take the comp study in there and then the adjustments on there. So are we at a place where is ideal? No, of course not. I mean, everybody wants to get paid more, and costs are going up. I think we did the right balance. I think, we did not want to lose any more positions. We did not want to make any more deep cuts that it would impact the work we did. So I'm very comfortable with that was what we needed to do. But I understand the question.
We're talking about salaries. The compensation study really helped address some of the salary compression issues, but it was a one-shot time. So we have faculty that have now been promoted that we've created an inequity among our faculty since the study. What is the long-term plan to help us rebuild equity among ranks?
Yeah, I think it's a great point. And, I think one of the things that we certainly did see is compression, right? I mean, so clearly, as we mentioned, the goal was to get within the competitive market range, and that was defined as between 80 to 120, right? And so when you raise everybody up who was below that, suddenly all those other people who were either close to it but didn't get anything were now compressed around it. We recognize completely that exists, right? I mean, so number one, we recognize that. It's actually a conversation we've talked about is how over the next years we can address that in a comprehensive way. I think the first thing we need to do, which we've done, is done a merit component now to faculty compensation. What we need to do also on the staff side is make sure that we have an evaluation system that we have confidence in so that we can actually move to a system of merit being rewarded as well among staff. And I know I've worked with Kevin and constituent staff senate on that. I think that's something we're going to end up, based on resources, is commit to that compression issue, right, is to deal with it. I don't have an answer for you today, but I do recognize it exists, and I do recognize it's a problem that we have to address.
And I would just add that it's in the work pillar of our strategic plan. Goal 1, strategy 1 is to make sure that we, are examining regularly, our compensation. So although you saw a pretty sizable, compensation study, I mean, we're not one and done. I mean, it will be a continuous examination process. And the reason I can tell you that that'll get done is that Rick and I co-own this pillar now, and we're going to be tracked by the president. So there are ongoing efforts that will be tracked to make sure that we're taking a hard look at this.
Hi.
Okay, so I understand it's a lengthy budget discussion, right? Sorry. Thank you. Getting into the nitty-gritty, it's a lot. It's more than we have time for today. But I'm wondering if there will be an opportunity to see in a little bit more detail how each of those pillars for the strategic plan, how that breaks out into new investments and changes and what you're hoping to see developed for the coming year.
Yeah, there's a lot more detail there, and we will share that for sure, the detail. And, all of the unit deans have received a copy of the complete board presentation that was presented to the board, and it did go into a lot more detail. A lot more detail will also be in the budget book, like I mentioned, when it's published. The other thing I will say is that the Board of Trustees still has to approve this budget officially, right? So before we all go off thinking it's one and done, it is pretty much, in my perspective, it's done. I think the feedback we got from the board was pretty positive. I don't expect any changes in it, but absolutely, that detail will be given to you. And I think each unit, as I mentioned, there were cuts that people had to make, right? That type of detail exists within the unit, so that will be handled internally, for questions with, if you have faculty staff meetings within your own area.
Just a couple more things on that. At the Faculty Senate meeting next Wednesday, I'm going to go into some minute detail about how the budget was developed in the Provost area. That was a request from the Senate. And at our June CAO meeting, we're going to spend an hour and a half. That level of detail. I would be happy to come to a Student Success Task Force meeting and drill down on the Learn pillar. What I can tell you, I'm not sure if the president mentioned this or not, but we are adding multiple academic advisors, positions in the Student Success Center, the Registrar's Office, the Bursar's Office, Financial Aid Counseling. I'm sure I'm forgetting. We created an Office of Scholarships. Hello, Samantha, you want to raise your hand? She's our new director of the Office of Scholarships to help us to make sure that we have a much tighter sort of compliant method of scholarship distribution and management. You probably saw from the message last week, we've had a pool of $500,000 for new academic programs. This year we had a pool of $500,000 for the academic units to compete on student success metrics that align with the exact metrics that CPE uses to fund universities. And we're going to double that next year. We're looking at additional funds for student emergency aid. We haven't completely finished building out the Learn Pillar investments. But I would imagine after tomorrow, we'll probably have a pretty good idea. We have a team of people that have been coming together. The president sat with us last week to kind of hear the conversation to make sure that we're putting Learn investments to the best use.
And I don't want to minimize the efforts that were made to get to this point too, because I know that a 10% cut across areas, there were real hard decisions had to be made. And I want to thank all of the unit heads, the deans who are all part of this process. So I don't want to minimize it that this is all great, everything is great. I mean, this was difficult, and I recognize the sacrifices that we were made to get us to this point. We think, you know, we've done the right things around investing where we knew we needed the gaps to be filled, and where which aligned again with our vision and our mission around what we do. I'll just say that. The other thing I'll say is that, you know, we've been a part of the work that I've been doing with the foundation is to get funds for them to support the university around our strategic initiatives. So for instance, the $500,000 that the provost mentioned, that was $1 million I was able to get from the foundation in January for strategic initiatives related to our strategic plan, and they agreed. I mean, so they're supportive of it. From July 1, they will give me $3 million, and so this has all been built into this budget. So I just want you to know that, you know, we're not trying to cut our way out of, you know, things. We're also looking at ways of growing additional revenues that will come into the university. And of course, you know, a comprehensive campaign is something that we are sketched in to begin in 2027. It's an absolute must for us. And as a result of that, we're ramping up in advancement too, so to be ready for that campaign, because we know there's a great ROI on having great advancement people. And advancement people, full stop. We've had many units that didn't even have an advancement officer in their units. So again, we're looking to the eye of investing in areas that we know will help us continue to support what we do, right? So.
And I will just add, you know, since you were talking about philanthropy, that that's going to be a key component for us moving forward. We've got to grow our gifts and endowments in a number of ways, but particularly around student success, student support. We know that unmet financial need is the leading barrier to student success, to the ability of students to progress and complete their degree, and we have about 40% of our students that are Pell eligible. So that means it's tougher for our students compared to other students down the road to complete that degree. So Rick and I get to go to the legislature next week to testify about you know, how affordability is so critical to us as an institution. We know that affordability is one of the top reasons that students pick UofL. That, and they know they're going to get a top-notch student experience. So, so tune in on Wednesday at some time.
I'm sorry, did you have another question?
I did, but I'll let
Thank you. Mr. President, you mentioned the foundation. I wonder if you could tell us what the leadership of the foundation moving forward is going to look like.
Yeah, well, you know, the foundation is a separate entity, as you know, to the university. So right now, the current executive director is planning to retire at the end of July. I think conversations are going on around what that looks like from the standpoint of transition, whether it be an interim or whether they look for a new person. So again, that's a determination not for me, it's for the board, the foundation board.
Thank you.
Sure.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah.
That is an inspired choice by Madam Provost for leading up our rollout of 65. Chris Wooden right there. So.
Oh, that's a shout out for Chris.
Oh, a shout out
yeah.
for Chris Wooten.
Well, yeah.
Well deserved.
Well, and since you brought it up again, please do make sure you all are paying attention to your, apps, and Waze in particular. The Waze app, WAZE, is partnering with us. Well, not just us, but the entire metro area. So, Monday is our go day.
Yeah.
So make sure you leave, with extra time. And I have gotten the question from a lot of folks about, what are we doing? We're not leaving campus for 2 months. That's not what we're doing. But we have asked, supervisors to afford a level of flexibility and grace, particularly as we adjust to, what we don't know is coming. Thank you, Donald.
As we're talking about student success, I just want to make a plug that we want to make sure that we are funding the departments that are educating the students so that they have a successful student experience from the educational perspective as well. So as we're building all these important programs that are needed, I just want to make sure that we don't forget that we still have an educational component that we need to fulfill for these students.
Absolutely.
And tenure track lines.
I hear you. Yeah, so I will say that we're spending somewhere on the order of about $400,000 this summer to scale up our math accelerator program. So I challenged the team to really scale this up because, if you pay attention to the nation's report card last year, the latest data we have, we were down 8 points for 8th graders in math compared to 2019. This is a problem that's not unique to Kentucky. And all universities are facing this challenge, so that's just another one of those areas that we have to scale up. I'll also share that in terms of the holdback the president was talking about and the restoration of funds, I prioritized 2 areas or 2 factors when I restored funds to academic units. One was if I thought students were going to be harmed, there were a couple instances in which I restored those funds to the unit. But the primary driver was instructional capacity. So if deans had suggested specific cuts to faculty positions or PTLs that we thought were still going to be necessary to meet the growing enrollment this fall, that's where we restored funds to. And I was very specific in getting back to those deans that these funds are being restored so that you can not cut these specific faculty positions. I'll talk more about that on Wednesday at the Faculty Senate.
Any other topics that anybody wants to ask questions on? Open the floor.
Donald.
One IT, where is that? How's the rollout on that going? Is there a timetable? Thank
Yes,
you.
so we have continued to take a look at that. That is a massive undertaking that will impact several hundred employees. So we are proceeding very cautiously. I think Carlos is on vacation this week. I know we've got Brad back there. A number of us, including the CFO, our vice president for HR, and others, have been meeting with, guiding Carlos through an extensive implementation process to make sure before we, press go that we have a very strong implementation plan for something like this. Right now, we are looking at potentially talking to some experts in the field to help guide this process. We also recognize that it will require a lot of change management. So I would say, I believe we're working with Carlos and his team on a scope of work, to take a look at, what do we think this would look like. I'm particularly interested in what kind of a timeline will this take. We know from the BizOps group effort that over the last year, we know what this can look like on a small scale. This would be a much bigger scale. And so we're proceeding very cautiously and really trying to make sure that, when we press that go button, that, we have a robust, detailed implementation plan.
Well, I'll just give you a little update on the strategic plan. Provost and I have been working hard on making sure that the plan that has approved in January is active. It's been worked on. it's even been modified since it was approved, and so just for you all to know that this is a very nimble document when we expect leadership to be adapting to it. And we have tactics that we've planned for FY27 that we're going to be supported through these funds, and we're going to be watching very carefully how they work out and that they're carrying along. So we plan to get that site open to you all to be able to see probably in the next month or so, to get you able to see sort of the Invisio. There's metrics built in there and some of the goals, so I think that'll give people a little bit better visibility. All of the units are working on their own final plans to get ready by the end of June to submit, because we gave all of the units time to have the university strategic plan so that they could work in alignment with that, with their own strategic plans. So again, we expect that the university, the unit plans will align very much around the same priorities as well, but also allowing breadth of individuality, because of course we've professional programs, for instance, and enrollment growth's not an option for them, and so all of that, is going to be incorporated and appreciated in the final documents. But again, we want to make sure that everybody's got their eyes on that, and it's important for us all, because again, I want to be very transparent about what our priorities are. And then the second thing, I'll just say that the Climate and Culture and Wellbeing did give their report on May 15th, and I appreciated meeting with them last week as a group to thank them for their work. They have a very excellent report they put together. I will be circulating that probably next week is the time when we will get that out there. The leadership team will work over the summer to kind of identify what priorities we're going to adopt for FY27, again as part of our planning process around our strategic plan. And of course it'll fit into the work pillar and the learn pillar as appropriate. So just so kind of all that. So if there's not any other questions, then I guess we could let you all go to enjoy this beautiful weather. All right. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate your time.
Thank you all for
Thank you.
coming.